Hello, and welcome to Day 3 of my reviews for all of the games on the PlayStation Classic. Today is a pretty exciting day for me. We'll be looking at 3 wildly different games, each with their own places in the history of the PlayStation. If you haven't seen the first 2 videos in this series, make sure you check those out as well, and make sure you click that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the videos in this series. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and hop right into the games. Our first game today is Demolition Derby, a racing game developed by Reflections, a development team that went on to create games like The Crew and Far Cry 5 under the name Ubisoft Reflections. I've played a fair amount of this game in my lifetime, and I've always found it lacking a lot of features and content. The game only has a handful of cars and a small assortment of tracks, and despite its Destruction Derby moniker, it focuses more on racing than actually crashing cars. I've had fun with this game, but like I mentioned with Twisted Metal in the first video in this series, if you were going to include one game from the Destruction Derby franchise, it should be the second game, as it was vastly improved and far more iconic than the original. You'll probably find a decent amount of fun with this game, but for me, it just leaves me wanting the more complete experience found in its sequel. I give this a 4 out of 10. Next up on the list is an absolute surprise, Jumping Flash, created by Japanese developers Exact and Ultra. The game itself is a sort of recreation of a game that was released by the developers a year earlier on the Japanese Sharp X68000 called Geograph Seal, except the generic spaceship aesthetic was completely overhauled to be a lot cuter and certainly a lot more original. But back in 1995, I didn't know that, and this game, which was in fact one of the first games I ever saw running on a PlayStation, had my jaw on the floor. Previously, the only 3D game I had ever seen was Star Fox on the Super Nintendo, and seeing this first-person game running at an incredibly fast frame rate with so much detail was just mind-blowing to me, even if I was only 11 years old at the time. When I finally got a chance to play it for myself, I found the controls extremely confusing, but with modern sensibilities and a couple of decades of practice controlling games, adapting to this game's control scheme was pretty easy to do, and I'm so glad I did. This game is an absolute delight to play. The bright and trippy aesthetic is so much fun to look at, the levels are varied in their designs and offer lots of unique challenges as well as multiple paths to complete your goals, and everything about the game just exudes happiness and fun. This is definitely one of the best games on the PlayStation Classic, and if you snubbed your nose at it in the past, I think it deserves a second look, or maybe a third or fourth. In fact, I'm gonna go play some more of it as soon as I finish this video. Jumping Flash gets a perfect 10 out of 10 from me. Our final game for today is Grand Theft Auto, the game that spawned an entire generation unto itself, an innovator and industry leader in so many ways. From humble beginnings come great things, but these are possibly the most humble beginnings they could ever be. Instead of a third-person view, this game goes with a 3D top-down perspective. While the basic concept is still the same, get a mission, steal a car, find guns, complete the mission, the devil is in the details. This game's map layout, likely because of limitations of the era, features few curves and instead relies on right-angle street layouts, making navigation tricky. Car handling is modeled fairly well, as different vehicles have different top speeds and turning speeds, but the main problem with navigation is the lack of any sort of mini-map, and mission objectives give you only a as the crow flies directional indicator, which means if you're not familiar with the layouts of this game's maps, you'll be quite confused as to which direction to go. Lots of features in this game actually got carried over to the future 3D games in the series, like the cities, for example. There are 3 stages in this game: Liberty City, Vice City, and San Andreas. Sound familiar? Those are the 3 main cities that all of the games from Grand Theft Auto 3 onward have focused on. While the original Grand Theft Auto isn't a complete disaster to play, it does feel quite dated. It would have been nice to have Grand Theft Auto 2 instead because of all the added features, but this is one case where I understand why the original was included. GTA is an innovator and definitely a worthy inclusion, but I don't think it is that great of a game to actually play. A spectacle for sure, but I feel that it's only a 5 out of 10. Three more games down, 11 to go. I hope you guys will join me for the next 4 videos. Make sure you go ahead and click that subscribe button so you don't miss any videos from Question Block Gaming. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you on the next one.